2. Now, if variety is the spice of life, then this episode comes with a 4 chili rating, because I've got something a little different for you today. A little different. Painted a portrait or a landscape, something a little bit different today. Very shortly. Here we go. Hey!
Hi, Johnny. How are
As if
you?
by magic.
As if by magic. The world is
The
magic. Life is magic.
the magic of modern technology. Take any technology back just a few decades, and you'll be considered a magician, a wizard, a witch, whatever you prefer, by the people who didn't have such tech. Kids, ladies, gentlemen, I'll hand it over to my guest, and she can tell you better than I ever could a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Inbal. I'm a psychic, tarot reader, and witch of many years. My biggest passions are the tarot and also, without being too weird about it, witchcraft. Absolutely love it. I love magic. I love communing with the spirits. I love connecting with nature. I love being part of the universe. Oh, already a lovely message at the bottom.
Oh, so this clearly been a whole life thing for you.
It's well, no, it's kind of been my path for about 30 years, but believe it or not, I'm older than 30. So when I first moved out, I'm from Israel, and when I first moved out, I went to live in Greece. And in Greece, everybody, messes around with something
All
spiritual.
right.
People will read playing cards, and if they don't read playing cards, they might read tarot. And if they don't read tarot, they'll read the coffee grounds. Hi, Paulina. And if it's not the coffee grounds, it'll be palmistry. So in Greece, everybody's a bit, involved.
Okay.
And for me, it was like really new because I grew up super secular, a little bit socialist. You got up at 6 a.m. and got cracking with whatever your job was. And I had no spirituality at all. So the lady who I worked for and lived with said to me, do you mind if I do a reading in front of you? Like just in case I was religious, just in case it was
Yeah.
forbidden for me. And I said, well, I don't believe in it, so you can do whatever you like. That was 1994. And for the younger viewers, they were simpler times, but they were also slightly bigoted times. So we wouldn't necessarily go back to the 90s, although the fashions were banging. And and she did a little reading. She said, would you like me to read for you? And I was like, sure, why not? And she said, oh, I can see somebody with dark hair overseas thinking of you, and he's about to call. Have you got a boyfriend? And I said, no, it's probably my dad. And he called. And I thought, wait, maybe. That was 30 years ago. And I sat with her every day and I would watch her read. And I would try to read just to see if I could do it. And it turned out that I could. So I thought, no big deal. It's probably something that everyone could do. And I came back to London. I was living in London in the winters. And I picked up a deck of tarot just for no biggie, just one small dose, no biggie. I'm not going to fall into it. And I used to sit with the tarot. I'd work in a shop, finish at 5, sit with the tarot for pretty much the rest of the evening and practice. I would take the tarot with me when I went out with friends, and I would read for them and I would read for their friends. And because the tarot is such a fabulous system. It's got astrology right in it. It's got numerology right in it. A lot of color associations, a lot of symbology, quite a bit of Hebrew, which made it easier for me. A lot of ancient Egyptian symbology, which I was really into as a child. The more I fell face first into the tarot, the more other skills became very simple for me. And then in 2000, right? So the first of the first 2000, I left the day job and took my pack of cards and got on my way. And I joined a psychic fair. And very, very quickly after, I got to participate in a TV show. And I was like 25. I was the youngest person there. Um, and it's been the same since. The opportunities and the joy of reading and the clientele, and then I got into teaching, has just been coming to me. It's been extremely, extremely lucky and a lot of fun.
So then, that brings me to a fairly obvious, if you have to forgive me if there's a bit of a dumb question. This an area I know very little about, except the bits you see on TV and whatever, which is probably pretty wide of the mark, I imagine. So is this the thing? As you said, is it a thing that anybody could learn,
That's a
or do
no
you need,
good
a
question.
gift? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good question. For me, the psychic skill is like any other skill. It's something that you might be born really gifted at. That since you're a child, you're able to tell your mom what her grandparents were saying and predict what the teacher was going to do. For some people, it was just a born gift that they have no say in the matter. For some people, it's a learned skill. And I think it's exactly the same as dancing. It's exactly the same as, say, poker playing. It might be something that's just really easy for you, or it might be something that you learn. And I think just like anyone can learn a language, they'll reach, maybe very good skill, maybe slightly poor. Anyone can learn to dance. It's much, much easier for people who were born with, with that specific gift. And I think most people are born with a certain amount of ability. And then, just like anything else in life, the more you practice, the better you'll become.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. Because I did learn to play the guitar, but if I really did have the skills that I wanted, we might not be having this conversation. So it all
One
worked
day,
out for the best. The universe had
yeah,
other
yeah,
plans for me, and that's fine.
absolutely.
I'm okay with that.
Anything can happen at any point. Anything can happen at any point. Now, I think I might be a little bit older than you. So when 20 years ago, people used to like focus, 25 years ago, on Joanna Lumley and Rene Rousseau, who were like 40s, 50s at the time, and suddenly sort of became really, really huge and sort of found extra success. Now I don't even know who we're thinking about when we're thinking of kind of the later in life inspirations, but we're thinking about like 90-year-old. We're thinking about like uh, Kirk Douglas, and I was going to say, where is he? Oh, I think I've got the book here. Sorry, I've got a pile of books for a tripod. Mel Brooks and people who are not just still creating, but coming up with better work and better work as the years wear on. So if you ever felt that you and the guitar are going in for one extra journey, really?
No,
Oh,
no.
never say
Those days
never.
are over. I'm finding this to be incredibly
Broadcasting.
fascinating and fulfilling. It's a fairly new thing for me, but I am only expanding and leaning deeper and deeper into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's like the most common question people want to ask you regards, for readings and things like that?
So the most common question would come from jilted lovers wanting to know whether they will get back with a person of their choice.
Yeah.
That is, for some reason, the number one. Like if you're going to go for a specific question rather than a topic, that's probably the number one question, because when people get to the end of a relationship and the person doesn't give them like an exit interview, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't say to them, the truth. I love you very much, but I feel that if we remain together, I will probably kill you, and I just don't love you enough to spend the rest of my life in jail, or something along those lines. Just say, it's very important for me to have children and you don't want them, or I'm sorry, my family won't accept you and it's more important for me to please them than, again,
Yeah.
super common and very, very shocking. So when a relationship ends without a conversation, without closure, there is nowhere for the person to get information except for a deck of cards. Or, sometimes there's people who do it without a deck of cards, also very gifted. But that is the number one question. And what's really interesting is that sometimes it's a yes and sometimes it's a no, because so many relationships do catch up. And I'll tell you even that she could be watching at some point, so I won't give too many clues, but I had a client who started coming to me in her early teens, because her mom used to come. So from her early teens, her mom would get her reading for a treat. And at school, she had such affection for a boy, and they kind of dated like, teenage dating. They kind of dated very innocently, and then they split up, and she so badly wanted for him to come back. And then he started properly dating, like, at late teens, in early adulthood, started dating her good friend, who also came to me for it. It was like a whole thing. And I always saw the first girl ending up with the boy that they both loved so much. And it took years, but she did. And they have a home, and they have their babies, and they have a pet, and she did. So this is really a message to all the jilted lovers out there. Sometimes it does work out. So sometimes I will say, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Just, keep living your life, and it'll come back when it's right for you. And your mom will say, you're too good for him. And, your grandmother will say, you're too good for him, but you love him, and you know that you love him. If the cards say yes. What's interesting, though, sorry, I'm going on a complete tangent here.
That's what we do here. That's what I do. It's fine. That's great.
I really feel like Nerdcore is all about the tangents. That's the thread that links all the different items of Nerdcore together. It's
Yeah.
the tangents. When you do want to get somebody back, when you do want to live in that timeline where the person who you have all this affection for and you end up reunited, it's super important not to stay hung up about it all the time. What I mean by it is that if the universe had chosen to separate you, it's probably so that you do something and they do something, maybe learn a lesson, maybe learn to appreciate, maybe go traveling alone. And if you stay hung up on it, sitting at home, stirring your tea clockwise, that's for manifesting, clockwise, and wish for it and wish for it and wish for it, it might happen, but not really in an organic way. Whereas if you fly off to Italy to learn the language for 3 months, and then they're here at home thinking, what have I done? And they follow you to it. That is what that's movie stuff.
Yeah.
That's movie love. And it absolutely happens in real life. And when you said that your information sort of more from TV and movies and stuff, some TV situations, some movie situations had a practicing witch on board, perhaps as one of the stars. For example, The Craft. Are you familiar with The Craft?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolute legend. And Feroza Balk in The Craft, who played Nancy, is in fact a witch. And there are words and concepts that they use there, not the Manol one, but other words and concepts that they use in the movie that are word for word almost to actual modern witchcraft stuff that is practiced. So some movies, some TV series will have had either somebody in the know on board or actually hired a spirituality advisor, for which, if anyone watching it, I'm available. Contact me for prices.
Yes.
I'll tell you everything. So some of the stuff on TV is wide off the mark. Obviously, you know, nobody wriggles their nose, but some stuff is bizarrely on the nose.
Interesting, interesting. So, of course, over the years, you're gonna have to give people bad news, or not the result they were looking for.
Yeah.
How have you sort of like emotionally and mentally toughened yourself to be able to give that, you know, in the best way? And I mean, you know, how they might take it, how they might respond to it when it's totally not your fault, obviously.
That's a really, really good question, because I like to empower people. I like for people to leave the reading feeling better than they did when they first sat down. And that's something that I kind of had to learn on
Yeah,
the job, because the tarot book doesn't tell you that. And when you practice, 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 that's one of the things that you practice. And so very, very, very early in my journey, maybe 1996. It was well before I went professional. I did a reading for a friend of mine, and she asked about her boyfriend, who was at that time working in Africa. Now, she was African herself. He was Caucasian. He was living over there. And I opened her cards and I said, that's very interesting, because I see like he's cheating on you. I said, but it's probably impossible, because I see him there with a blonde. So I know that he's working for an African company surrounded by locals. And she said, oh, he is out there with a blonde. He's there with his best friend. And she asked him and he confessed. So that was a really important lesson, to be genuine and tell the truth, because the most upsetting truth is still better than any lie. The most upsetting truth is still less humiliating than living as the only person not knowing what's going on. So that was a good lesson. As I went forward to becoming professional, I thought it's just important to have some boundaries. So by then I knew that the truth always wins. So I'd go with the truth. Obviously, I started at a young age, so I wasn't naturally very well mannered. Also, I'm Middle Eastern, so I wasn't naturally very well mannered. So I would just sort of go with the truth as the truth, and you know that's what what are you going to do about it? But I met a girl doing a tarot party. So I was invited to somebody's house. 7 people had readings one after the other, and one of the girls said to me, "You did my cards a year ago." And I said, "Oh, did things come true?" And she said, "Yes, you told me my granddad would die." And I was like, "What?" Because when I decided to have some boundaries, that was one of the boundaries that I decided between me and myself. I didn't sign anything, but I sat myself down and I said, "Inbal, you really need to either develop manners or have some boundaries, one or the other, ideally both." And she said it was the perfect message at the time, because I was going abroad for a few months and I would have missed his passing. So because you told me that he was going to pass, I spent a lot of time with him and said my goodbyes before I went, and you gave me that as a gift. And that's when I thought, well, maybe even the boundaries are not the best idea. Maybe it's better to develop tact. So that's what I go with. And when I have to give bad news, what I try to look for is the reason, because there's always a reason, there's always a lesson. If the worst thing obviously is to lose somebody, and then it's very difficult to put a positive spin on it. But I suppose the next worst thing is for somebody to say walk away from their family, and then we'll see whether the situation can be saved, because things are not set in stone. Things are still malleable. Life is very flexible and diverse. We look at the future, which I like to call back to the future. We see what the future will be, and then what we can do in the now if there's anything you're not happy about in the future. And I try to be empowering by centering my clients. So checking whether the person is good enough for them is really part of the course. If somebody's leaving you to be with somebody, you know, less talented because they've got control issues and they want to have somebody in their lives that they can lord it over, then that's not really as heartbreaking a loss as losing somebody who's really equal. I could probably list like 20 reasons why it's a good idea to separate right off the cuff. So I look for a reason, I look for a lesson, I look for a positive outcome. And if all of those fail, we look at next year, because it's almost impossible to have like several bad years in a row. A good one will come. Keep turning the card. There's 78 cards. Keep turning them. A good one will come.
Yeah. Oh, words to live by right there.
Thank you.
So when we say practicing Wiccan, so what does that mean on a sort of day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, it's more of an approach than a practice. It's being at one with nature, honoring nature. It's seeing the world in a balanced way. It's giving people the benefit of the doubt, and it's connecting with the divine. Now, I'm kind of a contradiction because I'm super, super not religious. I was sort of very scientific as a child and so on, but I really, really, truly believe that if something happens to me, whether it's good or bad, it will lead me to where I need to be going. So I think that's a very witchy attitude. And again, as another contradiction, if something happens that I absolutely cannot get on board with, I light a candle and ask for it to change. And again, going back to the, you know, to the light side, if the spell doesn't work, then it's probably because I am on the right path. So I'll give you an example. Where I live, there's several primary schools, like one or two per village, and they are massively oversubscribed because everybody wants to live here in the green countryside. And there's been, you know, mass exodus from the cities. The more technology advanced, the more, you know, people could live somewhere with less pollution. And when my firstborn didn't get into our nearest school, we just put her in another different school. And then when our secondborn didn't get in the different school but got placed in this school, I fought and fought and fought. I went to an appeal. Appeal didn't really work, so I went for magic. And I lit candles and I put things in the freezer. When I say things, I don't mean like dead rats. I mean, I say it's actually, I can share, it's a really good freezing spell of just writing the either the name of the person who's blocking you from doing something, or the situation that you want to freeze, and putting in a little container and putting in the freezer. So you're effectively like freezing the situation or stopping somebody from interfering. So over there was the name of the lady who runs the admissions department in the council. I hope she's defrosted since then. And the magic worked. And it's the kind of appeal that, if you like Google it, is supposed to be absolutely impossible to win. It's called a class size appeal because there is a maximum number of children that is allowed to be in a sort of young ones, in a sort of beginners classes. So it was impossible to win. I did win it. Am I putting all of it down to magic? Absolutely. And 5 years later, the same happened with my fourth child. And again, fought, freezer, candles, won it. so that's what it's like being a witch. I think it's being sort of very, very gentle in general about things and having a positive approach to life, which I really think goes across the board in spirituality. I don't think it's something that's unique to witches. I think it's something that you find in all the alternative religions and indeed all the mainstream religions. Having a belief that life has a path, has a purpose, that we are here to do something is very soothing in general, but also in the same way that mainstream religions will have prayer or devotion to that they would believe would get them what they want. We have magic. Is it the same thing? Totally. Yes. Ish.
Brilliant. Ish. Yeah. Ish. Ish is a great place to be, I think. So we should all live in the ish. So, we've talked a little bit about tarot. We've talked a bit about witchy stuff. Let's get to know you on a little more personal level, but only light.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I'm sure all three of my regular viewers might be bored of me doing the same thing every time, but because it's a different guest, I get different answers, so I still find it interesting. I'm going to move this on because I can sit here for 4 hours with some people if they'll let me. So we haven't got that. So we'll just play a little bit of this or that. There are no wrong answers. And unfortunately, there are no prizes. I'm sorry about that. One day I'll get paid for this shit, and then, maybe. Until then, cats or dogs?
Cats.
Oh, that was easy. Okay, beer or wine?
I don't really drink. So what? What would I drink? We'll go with wine, because I find that sort of harder to resist.
Okay. Pizza or kebab?
Pizza for sure.
Okay. So is that vegetarian thing?
Yeah, I'm vegetarian. Yeah.
Not the best.
Okay. Or falafel, that would be, that would be difficult.
I only discovered that like a year ago. I mean, I was aware of it, but I only tasted it like a year ago. And yes, sublime. Would you rather go skydiving or scuba diving?
Scuba diving. I'm scared of heights, and I'm a water sign.
Oh, okay. Would you rather have money or free time?
I think money buys you free time. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if it was either, or if it was money and no free time, or free time and no money, absolutely free time. Yeah. But in our capitalist world where we don't have to like it, we don't have to participate in it, money does get you the time.
Yeah, I have to admit, it is a bit of a loaded question, that one, but okay. Polka dots or stripes?
Ooh, I'll go with stripes today, maybe polka dots another day.
Yeah, I sort of I said this before as well, but I threw that one kind of in just to make up the numbers. Like, for some reason, I had an arbitrary, like, I want to have this many questions, and yet it's the question people spend more time deliberating on, like it's really important.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Which is great. I have been asked horizontal or vertical stripes. I don't care. Right.
Yeah, any small or big polka dot.
Would you rather see a magic show or a puppet show?
Oh, magic! I love magic.
Magic now. So kind of like
I'm very naive, so I believe anything. So if you do me this, I'll be like, oh, where did the finger go? I love magic.
It's incredible. I mean, whether people want to believe it as magic, it's a skill. It's an incredibly complicated, hard to master skill, and those who can do it, hats off to them all. I do. It fascinates me no end. Even if you show me how it's done and it doesn't spoil anything, I'm still like, my God, the work, the mechanics that goes into some of it. Anyway, what else have we got? Country retreat or city living?
Country retreat. I made my choice.
Retreat, of course. Which is everybody's answer, which is essentially makes the country the city if we all did it.
Yeah.
But hey, it's fine. All right. Would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf?
A vampire. Cooler aesthetic.
Yeah, vampires are cooler, sexier. There's nothing wrong with being a hairy mammal. Oh,
I spent half of my
I,
life and most of my butt getting rid of hair. I'm
I promise you,
leaving that.
this
It's
was a
all
good
getting
life.
rid.
Okay,
I
we'll do
think
them.
if I let it do what it wanted, I would really struggle having friends.
Yeah.
Maybe you would still be my friend.
Okay, so the always controversial one: Star Trek or Star Wars?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars, but at a push. They're both marvelous. I'm so sorry. And they're not even a little bit the same anyway. Why are we
No, not really.
comparing?
No,
Yeah,
it's just
but
for fun. Just for fun.
yeah, Star Wars is just phenomenal. It was so groundbreaking. I was born in 1974, so for me, those were like the visions of my childhood, through onto present day. Although obviously Star Trek has also always been around, but I don't think I know enough Star Trek. Like I don't know all the lore and all the series to be enough of a fan.